Every year, there's one high school football player crowned as the #1 recruit in the nation. But being #1 doesn't guarantee anything. Some of these players became legends, yes, but others flamed out entirely, and a few just disappeared. So from 2000 to 2025, we're going back through every single one of them to see what really happened. And by the way, we are going off the #1 recruits listed on the 247 Sports Composite ranking, so we are starting with DJ Williams. And he was a freak athlete in high school. I mean, this guy did everything. 42 touchdowns in his senior season, had 130 tackles on defense, caused 5 fumbles, and also ran a 4.45 40 time. USA Today called him their Defensive Player of the Year, and recruits said that he was the best player in the country.
He was one of the most highly recruited players at any position out of high school.
He was the USA Today Defensive Player of the Year in 1999.
At the University of Miami, they moved him from fullback to linebacker, and that was a genius move. He played for that legendary 2001 team that went undefeated and won the national championship. The Broncos took him 17th overall in 2004. He played 11 seasons and got 899 tackles, including some savage hits along the way. But he never made a Pro Bowl. For a guy who was supposed to be so elite, he was more like a solid starter than a star, I would say. These days, he's the founder of a clothing line called Dime Life. Moving on to 2001, we've got Kevin Jones, who was the guy that everybody wanted. Virginia Tech and Penn State basically went crazy trying to get him, and you can see why. This dude ran a 10.59 second 100-meter dash time while being a beast of a football player. When he picked Virginia Tech, they had never signed anyone ranked that high before. After rushing for almost 1,000 yards as a freshman, he dropped off a bit in his sophomore year but still had 9 touchdowns. His junior year though, the guy went nuts. He broke Virginia Tech's rushing record and finished with 1,647 yards and 21 touchdowns. Against Pittsburgh, he ran for 241 and 4 touchdowns in one game. The Lions ended up grabbing him 30th overall in 2004. His rookie season looked great with over 1,100 yards. Then it all crashed. His average yards per carry dropped to 3.6 the next year, and he was basically finished as a lead back. 5 years later, he was done with just 3,176 career rushing yards. After retiring, he did stay involved in the game. He's currently the chief of staff and running backs coach for the Bluefield State University football program. Vince Young was definitely a guy who lived up to the hype in college. He got a perfect rating from recruiting services, which does not happen very often. You could see why, because in high school, he had almost 13,000 yards of total offense. Bobby Burton even called him the most dominant high school player that he had ever seen. Then at Texas, Young was also incredible. His junior year, he threw for over 3,000 yards and ran for 1,000 more. But that Rose Bowl against USC made him a legend.
He's going for the corner. He's got it.
And it came down to that play menu too. That play was a zone blitz, and once I came back to go to my check down to Selman, it was a lane. And I just, my instincts just took off running.
I mean, he had 467 total yards in that game. It was just one of those performances that you will never forget. The Titans made him the 3rd pick in 2006, which was kind of shocking at the time, as Houston had the #1 pick and a lot of people thought that he would go first. Young won Rookie of the Year and made 2 Pro Bowls in his pro career. But the NFL was very different from college. He threw 51 picks in 6 seasons and could never stay consistent. The mental part of the pro game really got to him, and by the end of the 2011 season, he was out of the league. After retiring, he worked for the University of Texas Division of Diversity and Community Engagement as a development officer for program alumni. But it did not last long. He was fired for poor performance. Since then, he was rehired by the athletic department as a special assistant. Next up, we've got Ernie Sims, who made history before he even stepped foot on a college campus. He was the first linebacker ever to be ranked #1 overall in the country by rivals. This dude was starting varsity as an 8th grader. As a junior, he put up 180 tackles in one season with 41 for a loss and 12 sacks. He played both ways and led the team to 4 state titles. And at Florida State, Sims was legit. He helped FSU win 2 ACC championships and was a monster on the field.
From the shotgun. Intercepted.
Lions took him 9th overall in 2006, and he had a solid 8-year career with over 100 tackles in each of his first 3 years. But here's the thing. For the only linebacker ever ranked number 1 overall, solid wasn't really what people expected. All things considered, he ended up having a pretty disappointing career. Now he's the assistant linebackers coach at Florida State University, returning to his alma mater in 2024. When you have people calling you a Greek god, you know you've got to be good, and Adrian Peterson lived up to all the hype and then some. He was just a straight up cheat code. He ran a 10.26 100-meter dash time at 6 feet 2 inches tall and 210 pounds. In high school, he ran for 2,960 yards and 32 touchdowns as a senior.
University of Oklahoma.
Peterson got to Oklahoma and was instantly a superstar. As a true freshman, he started off very fast, and he went on to rush for 1,925 yards. There were only 2 games all season where he didn't hit 100 yards or more. At the end of the year, he finished 2nd in Heisman voting, which was the best ever for a freshman. The Vikings took him 7th overall in 2007, and from there on, AP became everything you wanted in a running back and more. 7 Pro Bowl appearances, 4 All-Pro First Team selections, and 2012 MVP when he ran for over 2,000 yards. He had this violent style of running where he would just truck over any defender, but he could also take any carry to the house because he was so fast.
I like to refer to Adrian Peterson as an animal. I mean, the guy is just relentless. He doesn't stop. His legs is always moving, and he breaks tackles, man. The guy, he runs angry.
Peterson's the first guy on the list who is a lock for the Hall of Fame, which makes it even sadder that he's got so many money problems right now and struggling with off-field issues. He hasn't officially retired, but he also hasn't played since 2021. Eugene Monroe was basically the perfect offensive line prospect. This guy didn't even give up a single sack in his final 25 games during high school. He had everything scouts wanted. At Virginia, he was super reliable for 4 years. Even when injuries slowed him down, he was still rock solid. His junior year, he gave up 0 sacks and only 1 quarterback pressure all season long. In his senior year, he set school records with 105 key blocks. The Jags made him the 8th pick in 2009. Monroe had a 7-year career that was just fine. He was solid, started a bunch of games, and finished up in Baltimore, but for a guy who was rated so highly, he never became truly elite. Monroe actually retired early in 2016 because he was worried about head injuries. Now he's in the weed business. Next up, we've got Andre Smith, and this guy was huge. 6'4", 325 pounds. This dude had 88 pancake blocks as a senior in high school, which was nuts, and he became the first offensive lineman ever to win Alabama's Mr. Football Award. Mike Farrell compared him to Orlando Pace and called Smith the best offensive line prospect in a decade. At Alabama, Smith proved him right. He started as a freshman and got better every year under Nick Saban. His junior year, he only gave up 1 sack all year long while leading Alabama's dominant offensive line. Smith won the Outland Trophy, which is basically the Heisman for offensive linemen. Bengals took him 6th overall in 2009, and he played 12 seasons, bouncing around 4 different teams. He was solid and reliable, but he never hit that elite level that you would expect from the top recruit in the country. Joe McKnight was insane in high school. He rushed for over 700 yards on just 45 carries as a senior. That's like 16 yards every time he touched the ball. He also caught 24 passes for 735 yards. He was USC's highest rated recruit in school history. McKnight's college career had some crazy moments. His Rose Bowl game as a freshman was nuts. 125 rushing yards on only 10 carries. But he never quite became the superstar everybody thought he would be at USC. The Jets still drafted him in the 4th round in 2010. He played 4 years, rushed for only 505 total yards, and never scored a rushing touchdown. An Achilles injury basically ended everything. Sadly, McKnight was killed in a road rage incident in Louisiana in 2016. He was just 28 years old. Moving on to 2008, and next up is Daquan Bowers, who made other high school players look like they were playing a completely different sport. One coach literally said he should not be allowed to play high school football because he was so dominant. Rivals even compared him to Reggie White and Bruce Smith, which is very high praise. At Clemson, Bowers had one of the best individual seasons ever by a defensive player. As a junior, he led the entire country with 15.5 sacks, even though he was playing hurt. He won basically every major award for defensive players, including the Bronco Nagurski Trophy. Then the NFL happened, and it all fell apart. Tampa Bay took him second round because they were worried about his injuries. Turns out they were right to worry. Bowers played 5 seasons but only started in 10 games total. He never had more than 25 tackles in a single season and was done by the end of 2015. For a guy who was supposed to be the next Reggie White, it was a huge letdown. 2009 gave us a quarterback who looked like he had it all figured out. Matt Barkley won the first ever Joe Montana Award in high school, and he was legit in college as well. He was the first true freshman ever to start a season opener at USC, which tells you just how special they thought he was. He broke Pac-12 records for career passing yards and touchdowns, and over 4 years he threw for 12,327 yards and 116 touchdowns. But then his senior season got wrecked by a shoulder injury against UCLA, and his draft stock fell off a cliff. The Eagles took him in the 4th round in 2013. His NFL career has been rough so far. 7 seasons, 4 teams, and he's thrown more picks than touchdowns. He's been a backup for guys like Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence, but he just hasn't played since 2023. Ronald Powell ran a 4.5-second 40-yard dash at 6 feet 4 inches tall and 245 pounds, which is crazy for a guy that size. Florida had never signed anybody ranked higher than him. Powell started off hot once he got to college. He made the SEC All-Freshman team and led the team with 6 sacks as a sophomore. Then the injuries hit him hard. He tore his ACL in spring camp before his junior year and missed the entire season. He came back in 2013 but was never the same player. The Saints took a shot on him in the 5th round though, but his NFL career lasted just 1 year. He played 14 games without a single start and had just 2 tackles total. After bouncing around practice squads, he ended up in the Alliance of American Football before that league eventually ended. And unfortunately, Powell passed away in January of 2024 at just 32 years old. That makes 2 guys already on this list that have passed away way too early. It's absolutely terrible. In 2011, we've got one of the most hyped up recruits that we've ever seen. Jadeveon Clowney was 6 feet 6 inches tall and 260 pounds in high school. Personally, I think I was about 5'6", 5'7", maybe 150 pounds. Jadeveon Clowney would crush me, would crush 99% of high schoolers. At that size especially, you do not want to get in his way. He had 29.5 sacks as a senior, and he had that insane combo of size, speed, and motor that you almost never see. At South Carolina, Clowney was a legend right away. As a freshman, he had 8 sacks and won SEC Freshman of the Year, but his sophomore season made him famous nationwide. You remember that hit against Michigan in the Outback Bowl where he basically sent the running back's helmet flying?
Wow. Michigan at the 41. What a hit! Ball's free! On the ground! South Carolina deserves to have it, and they do!
That won an ESPY for the Play of the Year and showed everybody just how dominant he could be. The Texans made him the first pick in 2014, but since then, his career has kind of been a mixed bag. He's not necessarily a bust. He made 3 Pro Bowl appearances and has had 58 sacks over 11 seasons, and he was definitely disruptive.
That last big one on a 3rd and 10 for 26 yards. Clowney giving chase. And Brady has seen enough of him.
He does some freakish stuff out there.
It's intercepted, Clowney!
He just sometimes just does some things that you're just like, I don't understand how a guy of his size could pull that off.
But even so, for a guy with that much hype, you expected a lot more. Injuries have been a constant problem for him. It's amazing to think that he played with J.J. Watt in Houston, but they could barely stay healthy at the same time. You have to wonder what that defense could have looked like if both of these guys were healthy for an entire year. Instead, Clowney has bounced around 7 different teams and is yet to become that generational pass rusher that everybody thought he would turn into. Dorial Green-Beckham is another guy who had all the physical tools that you could possibly want. This dude was 6 feet 6 inches tall, 220 pounds, but could still run a 4.4 second 40-yard dash. He caught 119 passes for 2,233 yards as a senior and broke the national career receiving record with 6,356 yards. People were comparing him to players like AJ Green and Julio Jones, so the hype was very high. At Missouri, Green Beckham showed that he could be elite. His sophomore year, he had 59 catches for 883 yards and 12 touchdowns, including a 4-touchdown game against Kentucky. But then the off-field problems started piling up for him. He had multiple weed arrests, then he got suspended after a domestic violence investigation. Missouri eventually kicked him off the team, then he transferred to Oklahoma, but still had to sit out a whole year because the NCAA wouldn't let him play right away. The Titans ended up taking him in the second round of the 2015 draft, hoping they could keep him focused, but it didn't work. He only played 2 seasons, one in Philadelphia, and caught 68 passes total, but the Eagles cut him in 2017. Since then, he's had multiple arrests for everything from DWI to drug possession. He even did jail time for breaking his probation. Robert Nkemdiche is another guy who was supposed to be the next great pass rusher. At 6 feet 5 inches tall and 260 pounds, he had the perfect frame for a defensive end. In high school, he put up 18 sacks as a junior while also running for over 500 yards on offense. He finished his prep career with 41 sacks total. At Ole Miss, Nkemdiche showed his talent sometimes, but never really put it all together. He had the physical tools to be dominant, but there were always question marks about whether he actually loved football. There were also some off-field incidents that made people worry about his decision-making. Falling out of a hotel window kinda does that. Even so, the Cardinals took him 29th overall in 2016, but his NFL career was basically a nightmare. He played 5 seasons with 3 different teams and had just 4.5 sacks total, all in a single year. That was 2018 when he also had 32 tackles. After washing out of the NFL, he tried the USFL and CFL but got cut from both leagues. He's also been arrested several times since then too. Leonard Fournette actually lived up to the hype, at least he did in college. This dude was built like a tank. People were comparing him to Bo Jackson because of his size and speed. In high school, he ran for 7,619 yards and 88 touchdowns. I mean, he was so dominant and focused that his coach Les Miles even compared his mindset to Michael Jordan's. At LSU, Fournette had one of the most impressive seasons ever by a running back. His sophomore year, he ran for 1,953 yards and 22 touchdowns, averaging 162.8 yards per game. He became the first player in SEC history to rush for 200 yards in 3 straight games. I mean, through 4 games that season, he already had 864 rushing yards. The Jags made him the 4th pick in 2017, and his rookie season was solid with over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. He was so powerful every time he touched the ball, you did not want to get in his way. But injuries became a huge problem. He missed half of 2018, then came back in 2019 with another 1,000-yard rushing season. After that though, his production began to fall off. He was still catching a ton of checkdown passes from Tom Brady in Tampa, but his rushing upside was severely capped. They did win a Super Bowl together in 2021, which was awesome to see, but for a guy who was supposed to be the next great running back, his career was pretty disappointing. He hasn't played since 2023, and to be honest, he's probably done. Trenton Thompson was 6 feet 4 inches tall and 290 pounds, but could run a 4.8 40-yard dash time and bench press 385 pounds. USA Today named him their Defensive Player of the Year, and even though teams were triple teaming him in high school, he still put up 84 tackles and 36 tackles for a loss as a senior. At Georgia, Thompson was solid, but never became the dominant force that everybody expected him to be. His best season was in 2016 when he made 56 tackles and had 5 sacks, but that was about it. After college, Thompson went undrafted, which tells you everything about how his career went. He tried out with the Browns, but didn't end up making the team. And since then, he's been to the Alliance of American Football, Arena League, CFL, even the XFL. For a guy who was supposed to be one of the most dominant players in his class, it was pretty rough. Rashawn Gary was the first defensive tackle to ever finish number 1 on Rivals. 6 feet 5 inches tall and around 300 pounds, he had 13.5 sacks as a senior and won the USA Today Defensive Player of the Year. But at Michigan, Gary's career was kind of a slow build. His freshman year was pretty rough, just 27 tackles and 1 sack. But each year, he got better. His sophomore season, he had 6 sacks and 65 tackles, then his junior year got cut short by a shoulder injury, but he still managed 3.5 sacks. The Packers took him 12th overall in 2019, and it did take a few years for him to really break out, but 2024 was his best season yet. He made his first Pro Bowl appearance and got voted into the NFL Top 100. This year, he's off to an incredible start with 4.5 sacks in the first 4 games. I mean, playing next to Micah Parsons probably helps since teams can't double team both of them. Jalen Phillips had one of the wildest college careers that you'll ever hear about. At UCLA, he started strong as a freshman with 3.5 sacks in 7 games. Then the injuries started piling up. He got concussed as a sophomore and only played 4 games. After getting hit by a car while riding a moped and dealing with multiple other injuries, Phillips actually medically retired from football in 2018. His career was over before it ever started. Then he transferred to Miami in 2019 to study music, but he also got cleared to play football again. His comeback season was incredible. He had 45 tackles, 8 sacks, and an interception while making second-team All-American. The Dolphins drafted him 18th overall in 2021, and his first 2 years were solid with 8.5 sacks as a rookie, but he did tear his Achilles in 2023 and hasn't been the same since. Even in high school, Trevor Lawrence was 6 feet 5 inches tall with that flowing blonde hair and a rocket for an arm. He threw for 13,902 yards and broke Georgia's state records for career passing yards and touchdowns, making him one of the most hyped up recruits in history. At Clemson, Lawrence lived up to every bit of the hype. He took over as the starter just 4 games into his freshman year and led the Tigers to a national championship. That 44-16 beatdown of Alabama in the title game made Lawrence a superstar. Over 3 years, he threw for over 10,000 yards with 108 total touchdowns and went 34-2 as a starter. He was a Heisman finalist and won basically every award that you could think of. The Jags made him the first pick in 2021, which everybody saw coming from miles away.
If you're talking about best available, there was no other choice in this draft.
So far in the pros, Lawrence has shown flashes of greatness and even made a Pro Bowl in 2022.
Lawrence fires into the end zone, caught! Touchdown!
But his NFL career has really been up and down.
Play motion by Kirk, backpedaling, end zone! Wide open was Zay Jones, and Lawrence missed him.
The Jags have been a mess most of the time he's been out there, and 2024 was especially rough. Through 63 games, he's got decent numbers, but they're only 1-1 in the playoffs. For a guy who was supposed to be a sure thing, there are some serious question marks about whether he can be a franchise quarterback or not. Nolan Smith had some of the most ridiculous testing numbers that you'll ever see. At 234 pounds, this guy ran a 4.51 40-yard dash time, and he only got faster too. At the NFL Combine, he hit 4.39 seconds, which is faster than Saquon ran. Even so, at Georgia, Smith took some time to develop. His best year was 2021 when he had 56 tackles and helped Georgia win their first national championship in decades. He dealt with some injuries, but he was still a key part of back-to-back championship teams. The Eagles took him 30th overall in 2023. His rookie year was pretty quiet, but 2024 was much better. He had 6.5 sacks during the regular season and then just went off in the playoffs with 4 more sacks.
Here comes Nolan Smith. Love in trouble. He is sacked!
The Eagles obviously went on to win the Super Bowl as well, so Smith got his ring nice and early in his career. At 6'5" and 290 pounds, Brian Brzee was a beast. He had a 31-inch vertical and ran a 4.21 shuttle time, which is almost impossible for a guy of his size. As a junior in high school, he had 36 tackles for a loss and 12 sacks. Then he went on to have 30.5 tackles for a loss as a senior. At Clemson, Brzee started every game that he played in as a freshman and won ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year with 4 sacks. But his college career got wrecked by injuries and personal tragedy. He tore his ACL as a sophomore and missed most of that season. Then in 2022, his 15-year-old sister Ella died from brain cancer, and he missed time dealing with that loss. Despite everything that he went through, he still got all ACC honors multiple times. The Saints drafted him 29th in 2023, and as a rookie, he didn't start, but he still managed 4.5 sacks off the bench. Last year, he had 7.5 sacks, which is pretty solid, and he came up big when you wanted him to.
Hurts in trouble, sacked!
He's been decent as a pass rusher, but his run stopping still needs some work. For a guy ranked as one of the best recruits ever, he's been pretty good, but not quite that dominant yet. Next up, we've got Quinn Ewers, who became only the 6th recruit ever to get a perfect rating according to the 247 Sports Composite. He decided to go to Ohio State, but things didn't work out there. Just 2 snaps in garbage time against Michigan State. After one season, he transferred to Texas, and that's where his career really took off. Over 3 years with the Longhorns, he threw for over 9,000 yards and 68 touchdowns. He led Texas to a Big 12 championship and back-to-back college football playoff appearances. His 2023 season in particular was really good with a 158.6 passer rating. But despite all that success at Texas, Ewers fell all the way to the 7th round of the 2025 draft. Dolphins took him 231st overall, which is nuts for a guy who was once the #1 recruit in the country. He's only seen preseason action so far, had a rough first game, but has since bounced back.
High snap handled. Ewers delivers off target.
It's probably going to be a while before he gets his shot, although saying that, you never know with Tua and all his concussions or how bad he's been playing recently. Moving on to 2022, Travis Hunter might be the most unique #1 recruit that we have ever seen. This guy played both cornerback and wide receiver in high school and was elite at both. He caught 272 passes for 3,963 yards and 48 touchdowns on offense, which broke the Georgia State record. On defense, he had 19 picks and 116 tackles. He was literally the best player on the field no matter what side of the ball he was on. Everybody thought he was going to pick Florida State, but at the last second he shocked everybody and committed to Jackson State to play for Deion Sanders. That move flipped college football on its head because usually 5-star recruits just don't go to HBCUs. When Sanders left for Colorado, Hunter followed him there and made history. At Colorado, Hunter became the first player to ever win both the Bednarik Award for the best defensive player and the Blitnikoff Award for the best receiver in the same season.
Pressure coming. Zura gets out of dark, complete to Hunter. On the move, showing him his shoe bottoms. Jefferson gets away from one, and superhuman pick for Travis Hunter.
He finished with 153 career catches for 1,979 yards and 20 touchdowns on offense, plus 66 tackles and 7 picks on defense. To cap it all off, he also won the Heisman Trophy. The Jaguars made him the 2nd pick this year. They're trying to use him on both sides of the ball in the NFL as well, but so far it's been a bit underwhelming, but I think he'll get there. He's shown some nice moves on offense in limited work, but there doesn't seem to be much chemistry between him and Trevor just yet. Defensive side has been okay, but nothing crazy. Still early, like I said, so obviously people are wondering if trying to do both positions in the NFL is just a little too much to handle, even for someone as talented as Hunter. Okay, now we've got some guys who have not yet made it to the NFL, but they're starting to shine in college. And 2023's top recruit, Arch Manning, might be the most famous ever. This guy has been considered a top prospect since middle school, and for good reason. He's the nephew of Eli and Peyton Manning, grandson of Archie Manning, so football is literally in his DNA. In high school, he threw for 8,539 yards and 115 touchdowns. And at Texas, Manning did something pretty rare these days. He actually stayed put instead of transferring. Manning waited his turn for 2 years, but when he finally got his shot as a starter this year, the early results were rough. He's starting to put it together a little bit, showing the kind of swagger that you really don't think of with the Manning family name.
And Manning keeps it himself. Cutting out, gets into the end zone, touchdown.
Plus, he's got plenty of time to develop, and I think he really does need that time. The Manning camp has been pretty vocal about him staying at Texas for a while, but he does need to step it up if he wants to succeed at the NFL level. Moving on to 2024, we've got Jeremiah Smith, who became the highest rated wide receiver recruit in history. Ohio State had been recruiting him hard, and when he committed, everybody knew they were getting something special. Smith's freshman season at Ohio State was very impressive. He broke Chris Carter's record for touchdown catches and finished with 1,315 yards and 16 total touchdowns.
From the pocket, well protected, shakes a shot downfield, and going up making the catch is Smith.
And maybe most impressive of all is that he only had one drop all season long. He won 247 Sports True Freshman of the Year and is already being called the best player in college football. And for 2025, we've got Bryce Underwood, who just started his freshman season at Michigan. This kid was the consensus top player in the 2025 class and flipped his commitment from LSU at the last minute to stay home in Michigan. At 6'4" and 228 pounds, he won 2 state championships at Belleville High School. Michigan named him their starting quarterback as a true freshman, which tells you how special they think this guy is. Coach Sharon Moore said he earned the opportunity and wasn't just given it. In his debut against New Mexico, he threw for 251 yards and looked fairly comfortable in the pocket. So far, he's 3-1 throughout 4 games and has already hit 733 yards. The kid's only 18 years old, and people are already calling him one of the top quarterback prospects in college football. So that's every #1 recruit since 2000. And as you can see, it's kind of surprising how often the best player in the country just fails to live up to the hype in the pros. But I want to know what you guys think. Which of these players was the biggest missed opportunity? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this video, take a look at these others right here. I'm sure you will enjoy them.